What if I told you that the most dangerous place for a human is not deep space, not a black hole, not a supernova, but almost every planet you have ever seen in photos, textbooks, or documentaries? This is not science fiction, and it is not exaggeration. It is a physics-driven reality check about how narrow the conditions for survival truly are. Right now, your body exists inside an invisible bubble of balance so precise that even small changes become fatal. Atmospheric pressure presses gently against your skin. Oxygen moves effortlessly into your lungs. Gravity holds you down without crushing you, and temperature stays inside a narrow range that allows chemistry to function. You never feel this balance because you were built inside it. Earth is the control sample. It is the only environment where survival feels passive rather than earned. Every breath you take works because millions of variables align perfectly without your awareness. The moment you remove even one of these conditions, the human body begins to fail immediately. Muscles weaken, organs lose efficiency, chemistry destabilizes, and systems that evolved for stability suddenly face environments they were never designed to endure. In this journey, there are no spacesuits, no technology, and no rescue. Each planet breaks a different rule of survival, and the order matters. Some worlds kill instantly, some slowly, and some so quietly that you would not realize what is happening until it is already irreversible. This is not about fear, it is about understanding limits. If at any point you realize how fragile this balance really is, tap like now, because by the end of this video, you will never see Earth as ordinary again. We begin with the baseline, the only place where your body is not fighting the universe every second just to exist, the place that feels normal only because you have never known anything else, the planet where physics finally gives life a small advantage rather than an immediate defeat, the single reference point that makes every other world in this journey feel hostile by comparison.
On Earth, your lungs are perfectly matched to the atmosphere around you. Oxygen makes up about 21% of the air. Pressure keeps gases dissolved properly in your blood. And gravity is strong enough to hold an atmosphere without crushing living tissue. This balance is not generous, it is exact. Remove any one of these elements and survival ends quickly. Mercury removes almost all of them at once. Mercury has no meaningful atmosphere, which means sunlight strikes the surface directly without diffusion or protection. There is no air to carry heat away, no clouds to soften radiation, and no pressure to stabilize temperature. Daytime surface temperatures exceed 400 degrees Celsius, while nighttime temperatures plunge hundreds of degrees below freezing. But it is the day side that matters here. Your body has no time to respond. There is no suffocation phase and no prolonged struggle. Heat overwhelms biological systems immediately. Proteins lose their structure, enzymes stop functioning, fluids absorb energy faster than they can dissipate it, and cells fail before the brain can even register pain or danger. This is not burning in the way people imagine. It is systemic collapse caused by extreme energy input. Mercury does not attack you, it simply exposes you to raw solar power with nothing in between. Survival does not fail gradually, it ends almost instantly. If this feels extreme, remember that this is the fastest death in the entire solar system. No other planet ends human survival more quickly. Venus, however, is slower, heavier, and far more disturbing because it looks deceptively familiar while delivering a completely different form of destruction that relies not on speed, but on overwhelming force applied continuously, invisibly, and without any possibility of escape.
Venus is often called Earth's twin because of its similar size and mass, and that comparison makes it one of the most misleading worlds in the solar system. Gravity feels familiar, and the ground appears solid enough to stand on. At first glance, nothing feels immediately hostile. But the atmosphere tells a different story. Venus is wrapped in a blanket of gas 90 times denser than Earth's.
Pressure alone would crush the human body the same way the deep ocean crushes unprotected machines. At the same time, surface temperatures exceed 460 degrees Celsius everywhere, day and night, without relief. There are no seasons and no cooling cycles. The air itself is almost entirely carbon dioxide, thick, toxic, and completely unbreathable, with clouds of sulfuric compounds circulating endlessly above. There is no moment of adjustment. Your lungs cannot expand properly, oxygen is completely absent, heat cannot escape, and pressure interferes with circulation at a fundamental level. Blood struggles to move, organs lose structural integrity, and normal biological processes cannot continue. Venus does not explode you, burn you dramatically, or tear you apart in a cinematic way. It presses you out of existence slowly and invisibly, applying overwhelming force from every direction at once. This is not violence you can see or hear. It is physics applied continuously until biological structures simply cannot persist. Mercury demonstrates what exposure does to the human body. Venus demonstrates what confinement does. It is the difference between being struck and being buried. The result is the same, but the experience is far more disturbing because nothing appears to be happening, even as survival becomes impossible. Mars, by contrast, removes pressure rather than increasing it, revealing how quietly the absence of air alone can end everything without dramatic force, noise, or visible destruction, making it one of the most unsettling environments the human body can encounter.
Mars feels survivable at first glance. There is ground beneath your feet, mountains rising in the distance, and a sky above you that looks thin but present. Gravity is weaker than Earth's, but not disorienting. This familiarity is deceptive. Mars has only about 1% of Earth's atmospheric pressure, and oxygen is almost non-existent. The first thing you notice is your breath. Moisture flashes away instantly as air pressure drops far below what human lungs require. Blood oxygen levels begin to fall within seconds. Muscles weaken as cells lose the fuel they depend on. Coordination suffers. Vision narrows as the brain struggles to maintain normal function. There is no violent collapse and no dramatic explosion. Consciousness fades quietly as oxygen starvation takes hold. Mars does not rush. It allows the human body to fail step by step in near silence. There is no pressure to crush you and no heat to burn you. Instead, the environment simply withholds what life requires most. This makes Mars uniquely unsettling. It feels close to home, yet offers none of the support systems life depends on. Beyond Mars, the very idea of standing on a surface becomes meaningless. The gas giants remove the concept of ground entirely. They offer no place to land, only layers of atmosphere that grow denser, faster, and more hostile the deeper you fall. Survival there is not about enduring conditions for a moment. It becomes an impossible descent with no reference point, no stability, and no final surface to reach. Mars shows how fragile life becomes when air is removed. The giants show what happens when even the idea of solid ground disappears.
Jupiter has no solid surface to stand on, no ground to brace against, and no final point of impact. The moment you enter its atmosphere, you begin falling into layers of gas that grow denser, faster, and more violent with depth. Winds exceed hundreds of kilometers per hour, whipping sideways with enough force to tear structures apart. Storm systems larger than Earth rage endlessly, fueled by internal heat rising from the planet's core. Pressure increases continuously, but destruction arrives long before crushing becomes the primary threat. Turbulence intensifies as atmospheric layers slide past one another at different speeds, creating wind shear powerful enough to rip the human body apart. There's no clear boundary where survival ends. Muscles fail, Organs lose cohesion, and structure disappears piece by piece as forces overwhelm biology. There's no moment of impact, no dramatic collision with a surface. Even after the body fails, descent continues deeper into Jupiter's atmosphere. The planet does not kill in a single event, it absorbs. There is no escape because there's no surface to reach and no stability to cling to. Saturn appears calmer by comparison. From a distance, its clouds move smoothly and its colors glow softly in layered bands. The rings float above in perfect symmetry, creating an illusion of peace. But Saturn hides extreme danger beneath that elegance. Atmospheric layers move in opposite directions at tremendous speeds, producing powerful shear forces that act sideways rather than downward. You are not smashed or burned, you are pulled apart laterally, stretched and erased by motion that feels almost gentle until it overwhelms you completely. Saturn teaches a crucial lesson. Beauty does not imply safety. In some environments, beauty exists precisely because the forces at work are smooth, continuous, and unstoppable, hiding destruction behind grace and symmetry rather than chaos.
Uranus removes motion almost entirely. Temperatures plunge below -200 degrees Celsius, colder than any place where human biology can function. Energy drains from the environment, chemical reactions slow to a crawl, ice crystals form instantly in exposed tissue. There are no storms, no lightning, and no violent motion. The absence of chaos is what makes Uranus uniquely terrifying. The human body does not panic or struggle. Metabolism slows, cellular processes halt, and biological motion freezes into stillness. Survival does not end in violence or impact, it ends in complete cessation. Time itself feels slowed as energy disappears from every system. Neptune represents the opposite extreme. Neptune holds the fastest winds in the entire solar system, exceeding 2,000 kilometers per hour. Everything moves sideways violently and constantly, driven by internal heat and extreme pressure gradients. There is no stability, no orientation, and no pause. The atmosphere behaves like a horizontal weapon, shredding anything that enters it through relentless motion alone. Structures cannot form, balance cannot exist. Any human presence is erased instantly by speed rather than pressure or temperature. Neptune does not crush and it does not freeze, it destroys through motion. The constant lateral force overwhelms all structure before the body can react. At this point, the pattern becomes undeniable. Earth is not normal. It is an exception where forces cancel just enough to allow stability. Every planet beyond it demonstrates a different way physics dominates biology the moment that balance disappears.
Beyond the familiar planets of the solar system, environments become even more extreme and far less forgiving. Some worlds orbit so close to their stars that the surface itself behaves like liquid. On these lava planets, rock flows in glowing rivers, mountains soften, and the ground reshapes constantly under relentless heat. Surface temperatures rise high enough to vaporize metals, while radiation from the nearby star penetrates unfiltered. In such an environment, heat alone is not the only threat. Intense stellar radiation disrupts molecular bonds before thermal destruction even becomes relevant. There is no shadow, no refuge, and no night. Survival ends before the body can register location or orientation. Other worlds drift through interstellar space without a star at all. These rogue planets exist in permanent darkness, isolated from any source of heat or light. Temperatures plunge toward absolute zero. There is no wind, no atmosphere, and no energy exchange.
A human body placed here freezes rapidly and remains frozen indefinitely, suspended in silence. Time loses meaning in such isolation. These environments do not require exotic dangers or fictional creatures. Physics alone is sufficient. Each extreme world removes one more assumption the human body depends on until nothing remains. Pressure, temperature, chemistry, gravity, and radiation are not obstacles on Earth. They are carefully balanced supports. Elsewhere, the same forces become instruments of failure. Understanding this reframes survival not as resilience or strength, but as circumstance. Life is not universally compatible with the universe. It survives only where conditions align narrowly enough to allow complexity to persist. Beyond Earth, that alignment disappears almost everywhere.
After seeing how easily the human body fails across the solar system and beyond, one conclusion becomes unavoidable. Earth is not average, it is not common, and it is not guaranteed. It is a narrow and fragile pocket where pressure, temperature, chemistry, gravity, and radiation protection align with extraordinary precision. This balance is not generous. It allows life to exist, but only barely and only within strict limits. The universe is not designed for us. We adapted to one rare exception. Everywhere else, physics dominates without compromise. There is no backup planet waiting with the same conditions, no nearby refuge that can sustain human biology without massive intervention. Survival beyond Earth would require rewriting the rules of life itself. This perspective changes how we understand our place in the universe. Earth is not just a home, it is a shelter against forces that are otherwise overwhelming. If Earth ever loses this balance, there is nowhere else to go. If this journey changed how you see your planet, leave a like now because it tells the algorithm that thoughtful science storytelling matters. And comment which world surprised you the most, because that answer reveals what people misunderstand about survival in space. Once you understand how easily physics wins everywhere else, you realize how extraordinary it is that life exists here at all. Earth is not ordinary. It is the exception that allowed the human body to exist without constantly fighting its surroundings. And that realization is what makes this planet not just special, but irreplaceable.